Good evening and welcome to the Wednesday, June 19th public meeting for Town Council, and we are beginning at 6:01 p.m. At this time, I'd like to confirm the agenda. Are there any emergent items from any of the councillors here tonight or at home? Councillor Peterson?
I don't have an emergent item, Your Worship. I just want to let you know that I will have an item under questions between council and administration.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else from councillors? Anything from lead services or admin? Jonathan?
Thank you, Your Worship. Tonight, administrations will be requesting that council amend the agenda to include item 8.3, operating budget amendment to reserve transfer, June 2024 Calgary water main break.
Thank you. So at this time, I'm looking for a motion to confirm the agenda as amended. Deputy Mayor Langmaid?
I'd like to move that council adopt the June 19th, 2024 regular council meeting agenda as amended to add 8.3 operating budget amendment reserve transfer June 2024 Calgary water main break.
Thank you for that. Any questions or comments? Seeing and hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
And that motion is carried. We have no public hearing tonight, and I don't believe we have any public comments at this point. We have no delegations tonight. We move now to item 6, consent agenda. Are there any items that are presented on the potential consent agenda that councillors would like to see removed and dealt with individually? Seeing and hearing none, then we're looking for a motion to confirm the consent agenda. Councillor Peterson?
Your Worship, I would move that council adopt the recommendations of the following agenda: reports by an omnibus motion, 7.1 regular council meeting minutes of June 5th, 2024, 8.1 community improvement program funding recommendations, 8.2 Wheatland County Recreation cost sharing agreement, 10.2.1 Strathmore Library Board meeting minutes, 10.2.2 Strathmore Library Board meeting minutes, 11.1 Strathmore Filipino Canadian Association Annual Independence Day, 11.2 Valley Medical Center letter of thanks.
Thank you for that motion. I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
And that motion is carried. We move now to item 8.3, which is the operating budget amendment reserve transfer, June 2024 Calgary water main break. And I believe Riley from our financial planning department is coming forward. Good evening, Riley.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of council. The purpose of this RFD is to request that council authorizes the transfer of $200,000 from our financial stabilization reserve to fund costs related to responding to the Calgary water main break, if and when needed. Our Emergency Coordination Center is currently working with our partners and legal advisors on engaging the province's disaster recovery program and other mechanisms in terms of cost recovery. However, this motion will provide direction to administration that we have adequate budget to incur emergency costs in a timely manner. The town's procurement policy permits emergency expenses to be authorized by the CAO when not otherwise budgeted. However, this approval will ensure clear direction from council to administration on the permissiveness of the expenditures and their funding source. The available balance in the reserve is $1.184 million as of yesterday. With $200,000 worth of expenses through this motion, the residual reserve balance will be $984,000. Any funds recovered or not expended will flow back into the reserve by a future council motion. We in administration cannot yet accurately estimate the total cost of the incident. However, preliminary proposed allocation includes potential expenditures like in the unlikely event we need to truck in water to our residents in the response. Our ECC had estimated we'll need 30 triaxle trucks doing 4 dumps a day, which would cost us about $120,000 in water and trucking per day. It'll also cover things like overtime costs for staff involved in the Emergency Coordination Center, although these costs aren't yet known either. And then just as well from deploying current staff affected by the closures, stuff like lifeguards from our closed facilities can be redeployed to assist with the town services we might otherwise do, things like painting, weed control, candidate day prep, stuff like that. That would cost us about $9,600 a week full-time, down to about $5,000 or so on a 0.5 basis. In terms of implementation, administration is going to track cost incurred, engage the province on eligibility for the disaster recovery program funding, and explore other mechanisms for cost recovery as well. That's really all I had for comments, Your Worship and Council, on the financial piece. Do any members of Council have any questions for me or other members of administration?
I don't have a question, I have a comment for our admin and for you, Riley, and that is that I'm very comfortable with this. I think it does give us a backup plan in case we do need water trucks. It sets that in stage so that things can be done in a timely manner so people can be reassured that we're looking after them. I also really like the idea of our lifeguards who are currently out of work because of the pool closure, that they can take care of the projects that are supposed to be done or that were scheduled to be done in September. So there'll be no further loss of time. So that's much appreciated as well. Councillor Peterson.
Thank you, Worship. So Riley, the policy 1808 that's attached here is because of page 8 of 11, the non-budgeted procurements. I'm assuming that's why it's here.
That's exactly. We just wanted to make sure we had everything in front of you. Yep, exactly.
So I know this always comes up, and my preference would always be that our administration would have the opportunity and the option of acting on an as-needs basis under this. And I'm wondering if you could speak to what the current limits are around that, and just refresh my memory regarding that.
Sure. So the procedure policy, kind of defines that administration can act in an emergency situation, and it's very, very broad what an emergency situation. It's not a state of local emergency. It kind of defines it as emergency purchases are situations where a lack of immediate action jeopardizes operations, disrupts public service, or involves the safety of employees and or the public. So quite broad. We just wanted to do this kind of reserve piece in front of you just to make sure there's like full transparency on what we were planning to do and how we were planning to fund it.
So I really appreciate that, because that's exactly what our community needs to understand and what we all need to understand going forward. And so, you know, it is a courtesy to council to bring this forward, and there's time enough to do that. And I echo the mayor's comments. I'm certainly in support of this and appreciate the work that's been undertaken to protect everyone, including our employees. Thank you.
CAO Scoble.
Hi, yes, just one supplementary comment on the trucking. So the way we've structured this is this gives us 1 day of trucking. We have 2, probably 3 in the current conditions, days of storage in our reservoir. So, you know, if the worst case happens, which we don't anticipate, but if it does, you know, we would have to have a special council meeting in 24 to 48 hours to get authorization to spend more on trucking. But this is just meant to carry us over should that worst case happen, and then we'll keep council informed and seek more funding if that situation should occur.
Thank you for that. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Wiley?
I'm ready with the motion.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I move that council approves a transfer of $200,000 from the Financial Stabilization Reserve to fund operating costs incurred related to the June 2024 Calgary water main break incident, on the understanding that administration is currently exploring the possibility of recovery of eligible expenses through the province's disaster recovery program or other forms of claim/reimbursement from our partners.
Thank you
And
for that. Oh,
I'd like to speak on the motion.
you bet.
I'm just going to echo what Councillor Peterson and Mayor Fuel have said. I just want to extend a big thank you to our CAO, our senior leadership team, the emergency coordination staff, and anyone else in administration that has had to be busily engaged, giving up weekends, late nights by the sound of it, making sure that this contingency, and it seems to me from the correspondence I've gotten, all contingencies are considered, thought out carefully. There's just been so much good planning and excellent communication. I'm just so pleased. So Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Wiley. Any other comments? Then I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
And the motion is carried. We move now to item 9, bylaws, 9.1, Regional Emergency Management Bylaw number 24-09, which is found on page 42 of our agenda package. Good evening. I believe Chief Sturgeon is speaking to this. Good evening, Chief.
Good evening, Your Worship and Council. Thank you for having us back to present on this. So I'll just give you the quick overview again on the who, what, why, and how, and Sarah and I'll be able to answer any questions at the end. During the last Committee of the Whole meeting, April 10th, Council reviewed the bylaw and suggested changes. At that time, there were no significant changes. Just to give you an overview of the plan, during our annual review of the bylaw and emergency plans, staff from AEMA suggested changes to the Regional Emergency Management Bylaw 2205. The proposed changes outline the regional partnership procedures, the agency, the committee, and the roles and responsibilities tied to each, ensuring greater clarity for all partners for their roles and responsibilities should an incident occur. Some of the proposed change include the following sections: removal of Planning Coordination Group, addition of the City of Chestermere, authority and responsibility of the Emergency Management Committee, authority and responsibility of the Regional Emergency Management Agency, and ultimately the proposed changes to the bylaw align with the local authority emergency management regulations and the Provincial Emergency Management Act. The draft proposal is included in attachment 1 for your review, and we're here to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Chief. Questions from councillors? Councillor Peterson?
I just had one question, Chief, on a curiosity question on page 51 of our agenda, or page 6 of 18 of the bylaw 2409, and that is related to 4.1E, where you talked about the review of the REMP and related plans. What other plans would relate to this particular plan?
So we do have additional plans included in the plan. So plans would be the ESS, so the Emergency Social Services Plan, our Crisis Communications Plan, our Recovery Plan, our Reentry Plan, our Livestock Plan, and then in addition, I think that's all. Sorry.
Wow, I didn't even tell you I was going to ask that question. That's an amazing answer. Yeah, thank you for that. That's really interesting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson. Any other questions? Councillor Peterson?
I'm ready with a motion if you'd entertain it, Your Worship.
That'll be good, thanks.
I'd move that council give first reading to bylaw 24-09, being the Regional Emergency Management Bylaw.
All in favor?
Aye.
That motion is carried. Deputy Mayor Langmaid?
I move that council gives second reading to bylaw 24-09, being the Regional Emergency Management Bylaw.
Thank you for that motion. Now that we have a motion for second reading, is there any further discussion on that motion? Seeing and hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
That motion is carried. Councillor Wagoner?
I move that council give unanimous consent to give third and final reading to bylaw 24-09, being the Regional Emergency Management Bylaw.
All in favor?
Aye.
That motion is carried. And Deputy Mayor Langmaid?
I'll move that council give third reading to bylaw 24-09, being the Regional Emergency Management Bylaw.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
That motion is carried. Thank you, Chief. Thank you for your presentation, folks. We move now to item 10, Councillor Information and Inquiries. And we have 10.1 questions between councillors and council statements. Councillor Peterson?
Your Worship, do you want me to do it there, or do you want me to do it on 10.3, or does it matter? Or I mean 10.3.
Sure, you can do it there if you'd like.
Yeah, either one.
Okay, so we have nothing then in 10.1. We move now to 10.3, question and answer period.
Thank you, Your Worship. My question relates to our June the 5th meeting, referenced on page 12 of 89 of our agendas, and it is regarding the resolution 129.06.24 that was rescinded, related to the issue around Counselor Montgomery initial motion on the conduct. And so at that point in time, it was mentioned in that meeting that we would revisit this. And so my question is twofold. I think council needs some direction around how to navigate our code of conduct bylaw. Certainly, we've had input from administration before on how to navigate that bylaw because sometimes it can become complex. And we did say that we would revisit it at some future time, and there will be expectations to do so. So, with the permission and the favor of this council, Your Worship, I would like to move that council direct administration to give direction to council on how to proceed properly and correctly within the confines of Section 14 of our Code of Conduct bylaw, and do it in such a way that we do not violate, sorry, it's number 18-09, that we do not violate that Code of Conduct process in the future. And so I hope that's clear.
Thank you. So just for clarification, you're looking for,
So I would just add to that motion, I'll go back. So what I'm looking for, Your Worship, is to move that we direct administration to give guidance with regards to properly carrying out the motion that was initially rescinded and to do it in a proper way. And we seek guidance from administration to do that. And secondly, that that we are able to build in any recommendations for correction into the bylaw if need be. And finally, I would add to that motion that we do this prior to the end of September 2024.
thank you. Any comments from administration concerning that request or that motion? Yeah.
Sorry, we just could use a minute if you don't.
Sure, okay. Administration, would you like a quick recess?
Yeah, maybe a quick 5-minute recess.
Okay, looking for a motion then. Councillor
I
Peterson?
move the council take a recess at 6:20.
Thank you. You've all heard the motion for a recess? All in favor?
Aye.
And that motion is